Oh, look at this. This is the new printing of this Timbuktu game from Queen Games. But why did they do this to the title? It's a Tombouktu. What's going on there? Well, let's take a look at the rules, see if we can figure that out. So the English rules here, of course, they say here Timbuktu, like we say in English, but the game Tombouktu. But you know, in the German rules, it is Timbuktu. That's how it is in the German game. So what's going on? Well, let's see what other rules are in here. Oh, there are French rules. Oh no, it's those dastardly French. They're trying to screw me up again. I can just hear them now. Oh, we will screw up that board games with Scott by putting lots of extra letters in his game. Well, I'll show them. I don't know how, but I can help. What are you? I'm Mr. Sharpie, and I can help you with that nonsense. Here, we don't need that. Timbuktu. Mr. Sharpie, what have you done? You've ruined my game. Wait, I've got an idea. Now it's a collector's item. You're brilliant, Mr. Sharpie. We'll make millions. Thanks. Hi there, welcome to Board Games with Scott. This is a regular video series where I take a game, explore it, lightly review it. My goal is to give you an idea if it's a game you might want to purchase. This week I'm going to be talking about Timbuktu, Tombouktu, as the French spelling would be, but we'll just use Timbuktu. That's right, I just wrote on a sheet of paper. It's okay, I didn't actually ruin the game. This game was designed by Dirk Henn and is published by Queen Games. It's distributed by Rio Grande Games here in the US. The game takes about an hour to play. It's for 3 to 5 players. It takes longer with more players because you play one round for each player in the game. But it handles 3 to 5 equally well as long as you don't mind the length. This is a deduction game, and I like the game quite a bit because unlike many deduction games, like Clue or Cluedo, where there's one big mystery to figure out, in this game, there's lots of little mysteries to figure out. And based upon how well you do at figuring out each mystery, you gain or lose points. So it's like a deduction game that resets itself during every round of play. So with 3 players, you're going to play 3 rounds, and you reset the game each time. So you have a chance to do okay in a future round, even if you screwed up earlier. And so that's nice. It's a nice feature that you don't see in a lot of deduction games. What goes on in the game is that you're attempting to have a caravan of camels that are going to carry a load of goods from one place to another, but there are some thieves out there in the desert, and they're going to steal from your camels as you wander through. You get a bit of information about where the thieves will be, but you can't find out everything. So it's part luck, part deduction, trying to figure out where those thieves might be that you don't know about, based upon what you know is possible and what the other players are doing. So why don't we open up this box and see what comes inside. So what comes in Timbuktu? Camels! Little wooden camels that you have to put all the little wooden camel stickers on. But anyway, you get all these neat little wooden camels in the game, and that's a nice little component. It's certainly eye-appealing, and all of these are lined up on the board. Each player gets their own display board, and this display board will allow them to track what goods the camels have and what they've lost. You start the game with a lot of goods, and as the game goes on, you lose goods off your camels. You used more camels for fewer players, so with 3 players, this whole board will be filled. But with 5 players, you just use this portion of the board. The back side of these also can be used for an advanced version of the game. Also on these boards is some information for helping you deduce what you do not know about the future. And then it's a modular game, and so you have a start board here, and so you start the game over here, and you're going to move this way, and then there's a finish board, and with 3 players, that's all you use. You use these 2 boards put together like that. But if you have 4 players, then you use an extra board, and you stick that in the middle of the start and the finish boards. With 5 players, you use 2 extra boards. The result is that there's going to be 1 turn for the number of players in the game. The most important part of the game are these little cards. These cards give you the information about where camels will be stolen from and what will be taken from those camels. I'll talk about them later, but what goes on is each player has some of these cards, but not all of them, and as the round goes on, you get to see more and more cards and get more information about what's going to happen in the future. You also want to make sure that you've got paper and pencil for everyone to take notes during the game. One nice thing about this game is at the end of the round, you can just cross off what you had before because each round starts brand new. The game also comes with these little goods chits. These indicate the goods that your camel has to start off the game, and as the game goes on, you're going to lose these little chits. So that sums it up for the components. I think the components are very functional, they're nice, they're attractive. When all the camels are laid out, it's eye-appealing. People come over to see what's going on. So I like the bits for the game. They've done a good job with that. But let's see how they all work together. At the start of a round, each player is going to get 3 of these cards. So these cards tell you where the thefts are going to occur. And what you do before each round of the game is you take these and mix them up and set it up so that there's 1 card from each row in a stack. So you're going to have 5 stacks. And each stack is going to tell you what is stolen, from what row it's stolen, and from which stalls it's stolen from. So these tell you which 2 goods are stolen, and any camel that's stolen from loses all goods of that type. These tell you what row it's stolen from. On the boards, there are symbols for the different rows. So if it's the sword row, it's going to be this row. Then it also tells you which 2 stalls are stolen from. So like this is 1 and 5, so that would be 1 and 5. These 2 camels are stolen from. If they have any of those goods, they're gone. To start each round of play, you then create 5 stacks, 1 with each of the 3 types of cards. And this combination of cards is going to tell you some information about what's going to get stolen from. If you have fewer than 5 players, you still set it up just like this, but you end up having one of the stacks belonging to a dummy player. So if there were 4 players, then we'd still create a stack here. There'd be 4 players, one would have each one of these stacks. And then twice during the round, when you hit these change card spaces, you will then end up passing your hand to the player on the left. When you shift cards, what you do is you just pass your stack of cards to the next player over. If there's a dummy player, that's fine. The cards will just go into the dummy player slot. And those cards will go to here, those cards will go to here, those cards will go to here, these cards will go to here. So you get to see more cards. This is still the dummy player. It's still got a set of cards. With 3 players, you just have 2 dummy players. The same thing happens, though. When you shift the cards, you'll just end up leaving cards in the dummy players. Then at the end, you're going to flip over all 5 sets and reveal where all the thefts are. This is the board that represents your caravan, and your caravan is going to have a number of camels in it. The number of camels will be determined by the number of players. The more players you have, the more camels you will have. Now each camel has a load of 4 items. And when you start the game, what you're going to do is you're going to take your board and it will show you in shadow what items go on each camel. So you'll load that up. And then during the game, you're going to lose this stuff. So in the game, at the beginning, you start with everything and you're trying to hang on to it throughout the game. And at the end, you'll get points for whatever you manage to hang on to. On the reverse side of these boards is a clear display, and that allows you to set the goods up however you'd like. It's for a more advanced version of the game. The other important information on the board is down here in the bottom, and this information is telling you what combinations of slots and what combinations of goods appears on the cards. So when you're trying to deduce what card combinations are out there, you can use this information and you can see, oh, well, I know that I haven't seen these 2 combinations and I know I haven't seen these things, and so therefore I know that's what's left, so I can make some guesses. So, after you determine which camels are stolen from, if, for example, my A camel was in one of the bad slots and had its coffee and water stolen, I would lose all the coffee and all the water from camel A. So, as you see, being stolen from can be devastating, can wipe out what a camel has. The nice thing about it, then, is I don't have to worry about being stolen from with coffee or water again, so I can put camel A in harm's way in the future. So during each round of play, all the camels are going to move from one board to the next board. And the way this works is that each player will look at their hand of camel cards that represent each of the camels they have available, and then pick one and put it face down in front of them. And then in turn order, each player will flip over the camel card and then move that camel. Now when they move the camel, let's say I played this black E, so that's this camel. I move him from this row. It doesn't matter where they are in this row. That's not important. And I have to follow the arrows. So my 2 choices are to move him on across to the moon, or following the arrows, move him down here to the palm trees. Either way, when I enter the row, I have to go all the way down and stop in number 1. So if I do that, then I might choose to move him over there. And then the next player goes, and the next player does the same thing. Let's say that the red bee moves, and the red bee can move to the palm tree, or with the lamp. And so you make your pick. And then this row goes, let's say that the C goes next and the green C decides to move on the star row. And then now this little symbol indicates that it's time to swap cards. Whenever a camel lands on a swap card spot, and there's 2 on each of the boards, you then pass your cards to the next player on your left. This way you get to know more about which are the danger spots, and we'll get to continue deducing where are safe places to go. You continue doing this, moving camels over until all the rows are full. If you'll notice, each camel has 2 choices for their row. So for this D, he could go to the lamp or to the star. If he wanted to go to a different row, say the palm tree, he could do so, but he has to discard 1 good from that camel. It might be worth it. If you know that you're going to lose a bunch of stuff, you may want to go ahead and discard that good and move to a different row. You also might be forced to do so. In this case, this A camel has 2 choices, and both of which are full. So the A camel is going to have to pay 1 and move to a different row in order to continue. So this is a game of deduction. Let's say this is at the end of a round where I have some information here about the camels, and I have some information, I've seen these sets of cards, so I know about these spaces. All those spaces at this point are full, so it doesn't matter anymore. What I'm worried about are these empty spaces. These are the cards I have not yet seen. So these cards could be in any combination. I don't know which row goes with which slots, goes with which goods, and I have to try and deduce that to stay safe. Now let's say I'm the red camel and it's my turn to go, and at this point I see I can choose either star or sword. So star and sword, I don't know either row, and I know from deducing that one of these 2 cards has the slot 5 on it. So one spot is dangerous, the other spot is safe. Now one choice I could make is to pay 1 good and move over to the lamp spot, knowing that that spot is safe. But let's say I didn't want to pay that good and instead I wanted to puzzle this out. So I might take a look and say, all right, I know that the black player has seen these 2 sets of cards because of where we're sitting around the table. The black player has seen the 2 sets of cards I have not seen. And I can see that the black player has made some moves. So let's take a look and see if we can do some deduction. Now, I see that the black player went here. That means the black player went on slot 1 of the sword row. And I see that the black player went on slot 2 of the star row. So I might guess that the black player knows that slot 1 on the sword row is safe. And the black player knows that slot 2 on the star row is safe. So the black player, I would wager, has seen these combinations of cards. Has seen that the sword row is dangerous for 2 and 5, and therefore went on 1. And has seen that the star row is dangerous for 1 and 3, and therefore went on 2 and 4. So my move then would be to say, well, I would wager that this space is a safe space, given what the black player has done and given the cards the black player has seen. And that's where the deduction of the game comes in. After all the camels have moved from one board to the next board, you then flip over each set of the thievery cards to see which camels get stolen from. So if these were the 3 cards, then the camels in the moon row up here, in slots 2 and 5, so this one and this one, lose their water and their coffee. So the green D and the red D would lose all water and all coffee. And then you go through and resolve each of these set of 3. People lose goods as appropriate. You're then ready to move on to the next round. You can actually take this board completely out of the way. It's not important. And then you can put on the next board and continue your travels. This continues on and on until you reach the final board of the game. And then you score. At the end of the game, in order to score, what you do is you look at all the goods that have been stolen throughout the game. And each good that is remaining on camels is worth the number of goods of that type that were stolen. So the more that's stolen, the more rare the good and the more valuable it is. So if this were the case at the end of the game and these were all the stolen goods, then every gold someone has is worth 9 points, coffee is worth 7, the pepper is worth 8, the salt is worth 6, and the water is worth 7. So you add up the number of points for each chit you have left and total it up to see who wins. And that is Timbuktu. So to conclude, I enjoy this game. I enjoy deduction games, but one problem with them is there's one big puzzle. And so you're always working towards this one big puzzle in many of the deduction games, and when someone solves it, then the game is over. With this game, you've got a number of small puzzles. So if you screw up, or you screw up in your notation, or you just have a brain lapse, it's okay because you've just screwed up one round and you've got more rounds to deal with. Another interesting feature that happens in the game, People who are doing poorly early on lose goods, and then they don't have to worry about things as much because there aren't as many goods for them to lose. So I've found it interesting in the games I've played. The people that do well early on have to continue to focus to really do well, and the people who have done poorly don't care as much because they don't have as much to lose. So they'll actually make choices to attempt to throw off the people that are doing well. One of the complaints I've heard about the game is people say it's luck, that you're going to get to see 3 sets of cards and there's 2 you don't know and those are just wild guesses. And that's not true. This is a deduction game. You know that for each of those 2 sets of cards, you know what the choices are because it's there on your sheet. You know what the possibilities are. And you know who has seen those cards sitting around the table. So you can use that to deduce what they might have seen. So how do I feel about the game? I find that with 5 players it tends to drag on a little bit. 5 rounds seems like it's a little too much. I understand why they did it. They wanted to make it fair so that each player gets to be the starting player. I think you could remove one of those rounds and just deal with it. So, my overall review, with 3 or 4 players, I'd give this game an A. With 5 players, as written, I'd give it a B+. It just drags a little bit with 5 players, gets a little tiring. So, if you like deduction games, you will probably like this game. If you don't like deduction games, you probably won't like this game. And that's kind of what it comes down to. To talk about this game or many other games, the best community site online is BoardGameGeek.com. So with that, I will thank you for coming and encourage you to visit my site, see what else is up there, and come back another time for more Board Games with Scott. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye. And be safe, and I can now see that there is a cat in my shot. Yes, and the cat is destroying the camels. Darwin, I know you want to be on TV. I don't want you in my shot. These 2 slots are bad, and I know that the palm tree. Darwin. Yes, you want to be in the middle of everything, I understand that. But not right now. Oh my gosh.